Hi everyone, this is Linda at Overbrook Quilt Connection, and today we're doing block 29. It's called Twinkle Twinkle. So as you can guess, we're going to be making a star. It's kind of a fun star, and we start with half square triangles that get squared up to 2 inches. Now, I need to talk about the cutting a little bit, because my printer, when I printed this off, made a funny error. So I'm going to run through the sizes of the squares just in case your printer does the same thing mine did. For A, there should be 4 3.5-inch squares, and that one printed okay. For B, it should be 6 3 7/8-inch squares. C should be 18 2 3/8-inch squares, and D should be 6 2 3/8-inch squares. Now, I subdivided those categories of B and C into 2 different colors. D, I made the lightest of the 3 colors that I used in this. So, you need to make 12 half square triangles that are a combination of the light and the medium. So that meant I cut six squares of D, which was the light, but then I also cut 6 squares of C as a medium. So then I also cut 12 squares of dark C, because I also will be doing combinations of light and dark half square triangles. Then on B, which are the bigger, they're going to make up the bigger parts of the half square triangles, I cut 4 of them out of my background and 2 of them out of my medium. So of the 6, I did 2 medium, 6B squares. I did 2 of them medium, 4 of them background. So just in case you want to duplicate the type of pattern that I did, then that's how I did the cutting. Okay, so back to the half square triangles. The first thing we do is make a total of 12 half square triangles with the light. So there would be 4 of them with the medium. Now wait a minute, I just said that wrong. There will be I'm confusing myself now. You will make 4 half square triangles that are light and medium. Okay, that is correct. 4 of them that are light and medium, that are squared up to 2 inches. Okay, then you'll have extra triangles of the medium. And so we're going to make these little units that will become half of a half square triangle. So the first thing we do is you'll sew one of your triangles on the light side. We're enclosing the light side of these half square triangles. So you'll sew 1 triangle on. We start at the corner and stitch down to the point. Press it towards the triangle. Then you take another one, and again the corner will be next to the light, and you will lay that on there like so and stitch down. Now I like to trim off these little points because, well, I've said it a million times in this series, I just like to have a straight edge to sew it next to. So I trimmed off that little tip. The second triangle will get laid on there. Again, you will stitch from the corner down to the tip, and you end up with this unit that has triangle on both sides. Okay, that piece then has, I thought I had one that wasn't, I guess I don't. So that piece will be paired up with one of the larger background triangles. So I made 4 of these units, and when I laid them on with the background triangle to sew this long seam, I lined up the outside edges of that. The reason I did that is to make sure I had the maximum amount of space. This whole square needs to be 3.5 inches, and you really do need almost every sliver of that. So I lined it up with the 2 outside edges, and then if these edges weren't entirely lined up, I used okay, here's an example to show you. The white background is a little bit, when I lined it up with the outside edges, this top one was a little bit shorter than the white background. So I used the white background as my line to stitch with. So then my half square triangle will measure the whole 3.5 inches. All 4 of these I pressed towards the piece triangle, which is not exactly how the fabric wants to go, but these are going to be nested in with another one, a similar piece that is made out of the dark. And so I wanted these seams to nest because it would be a really hard seam to, with all that piecing in there, it'd be a really hard seam to get to lay flat. So, all right, so we're making 4 of these. Again, you will square them up to 3.5 inches. All right, then we made 2-inch half square triangles out of dark and light, exact same piecing that we're going to be doing here, except when I pressed my half square triangles, I pressed 4 of them to the dark and 4 of them to the light. So I took all the ones that were pressed to the dark, and I made those units and kept them all together and sewed them to the background. And the reason I did that is because eventually they're going to be paired up with another dark, but it's a dark medium half square triangle. And so I didn't want to have to keep checking to see, okay, is this one pressed towards the dark or is this one pressed towards the light? And so I just thought it was easier for me to keep them straight, to do them all at the same time. So I did the 4 that are pressed towards the dark. I did them and paired them with the background, squared them up to 3.5 inches. Again, I matched the outside edges when I sewed that seam. All right, so I did 4 of those. Then the remaining 4 half square triangles that are light and dark, I pressed those towards the light. But the same exact steps to make your triangle for the half square triangle piece, but this time they're paired up with the medium. Now, these were pressed towards the background. These can also be pressed towards the big triangle or the medium in this case. As you can see, not always is, I mean, this one has a little bit of a gap between this point of the light and the seam. I mean, you can see a little bit of the medium in there. It's better for these to float than it is to cut off that point, okay? Because it would show quite a bit because there's such a big contrast there. So it's better to have that, what we call float, a little extra space there, than it would be to cut off that point. All right, so again, we're making 4 of those and squaring them up to 3.5 inches. So now we are ready to put them in rows. So let me finish up my units. I'll come back and show you how the rows go together. I have this laid out into the star So let me just run through what I've got here. Everything is in 3.5-inch squares at this point. So to lay this out, I started with my center because your center needs to be a pinwheel of dark and medium. So look at your picture and make sure you have them laid the right direction. But so it will be so you can see the pinwheel there. Okay. Then the next thing I did was lay my my medium and background. And again, those were pressed towards the pieced part. The inside pinwheel, those were pressed to the medium. Okay, so then I laid those down, and they need to be laid with the pieced part towards the big triangle, and then the background towards the center seam. Okay, so I laid all 4 of those out. Then I laid these out, which are the dark and the background. Those again are pressed towards the background because they're going to nest with these, and so that makes them opposite, seams opposite. So then I laid those down because the backgrounds need to be going towards each other and the reds need to be touching each other, and then we have corner squares of background. So it's going to be in 4 rows. And I will sew the rows together and then I'll come back and show you the rest. I have it sewn into the 4 rows that make up this block. I press them alternating the seams, alternating directions. So just make sure you keep that pinwheel effect of the pink with the pink and the red with the red, and you'll be fine. I'm going to go ahead and sew this in my rows into the block. I'll come back and show you the finished block. I have the block complete. Let me move my camera up a little bit. I think that might help. You see the whole thing. So there are some match points in here. Anytime these 2 red half square triangles come together, there is a match point at this seam. But since we pressed the triangles away from the little light colored half square triangle, everything nested. Well, no, wait. Let me back up. These nest because of the half square triangles, that one is pressed towards the light and one is pressed towards the dark. So yeah, those nest together, and then they also nest together by virtue of the triangles that we sewed to either side. Yes, I had it right in the first place. Because we pressed away from the half square triangle, since we pressed the little triangles away, then those seams nest as well. So you have match points here and here and here and here. So I just want to bring that to your attention. They nested in just fine and I didn't have any trouble with them. You do have a lot of bulk in these seams, so go slowly as you go over where your seams, join up. And, press your row seams whichever way it makes your star points look best, I would say. And even if you want to press them open, I don't do that very often, but these, there's a lot of piecing in this block. So, you could even press them open if that helps you distribute the bulk a little bit better. But anyhow, here is our block 29. There's only one block left. So I'll see you back tomorrow to finish it up.